Hi, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Dr. Sharif Mohr of the Drug Free America Foundation. This is the Pathways to Prevention podcast, where we discuss some of the most innovative and inspiring work being done around the world in substance use prevention, treatment, and recovery. Joining us today is Dichen Choden, a program officer with the Drug Advisory Program of the Colombo Plan based in Colombo, Sri Lanka. Dichen was recently part of an effort to train Afghan teachers in the Universal Prevention Curriculum for Substance Use. Welcome to the podcast, Dichen, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Sherry, for having me.
So before we get into your project in Afghanistan, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you became involved with drug demand reduction work?
I'm a high school teacher by profession. I'm also a youth counselor. My interest in, I won't say my interest in drug demand reduction, but there was a show that I watched when I was quite young, must have been like 10 years old, and it was about drug use. And the show was quite fascinating. It stayed with me for quite a while. And then when I was in my high school, that was the first time I actually saw people who were using drugs. And again, I found it really fascinating that, there was certain group of people, who were using it. And then there's this large group of people who are not using it. And then I also felt like there's something wrong there because no one was talking to this young people. So my interest was really to become a youth counselor because in most societies, children are to be seen, not heard. We don't talk to the children. And I think for me, that was really important because when I had my personal issues as well, I felt like there wasn't really an adult that I could talk to. And that's when the idea of becoming a youth counselor started. And that's how I got involved finally in drug demand reduction. But I think eventually it came together. My interest in looking at people using drugs, substances, and then wanting to become a youth counselor. So that's how the whole thing started with drug demand reduction.
Now, where did you grow up, Dichen?
In Bhutan.
Wow, Bhutan, the true authentic Shangri-La.
Yeah.
So even in a country such as Bhutan, which has always been thought of as somewhat reclusive, perhaps this is changing, but it's certainly been a bit isolated due to its geography. You're being in the midst of the Himalayan mountain range. So, but even there, drugs have penetrated the society.
Yes, I would say it's mostly pharmaceutical drugs. There is cannabis as well, and there is some plants. I think it's called datura or something like that. That people have started using, but it's mostly pharmaceutical drugs that comes through. Because we share a very porous border with India, so it's very easy. I'm not aware of any major opium use, like heroin and cocaine and all that. But yeah, it's mostly like pharmaceutical drugs that comes through.
Interesting. So please tell us about your fascinating project in Afghanistan to train teachers in the UPC, Universal Prevention Curriculum.
So this project, it's called the Preventive Drug Education Project. It's for the schools of Afghanistan. So we not only work with teachers, we also work with young people in Afghanistan. This particular project. So initially it was started as a small project in Afghanistan to train teachers in substance use prevention. So it was more like training them life skills, which in turn they could teach their students. But in 2010, that's when the big project started, and then we were developing our own lesson plans as well. So then we moved on to we have our lesson plans which are being taught in the schools, and then we train the teachers, and we now moved on to UPC. So before the pandemic hit us, we had started training the teachers. We we had about 8 training or so in Afghanistan. 10 training before the pandemic hit. So what we were planning to do at that point, like which we were supposed to do in 2020, we were supposed to go to schools into provinces and then train more number of teachers in different provinces. And the pandemic hit us, and then we just thought, like, how do we continue this online? How do we do this now going forward? So that's how we started planning to conduct this training online. And then we have a wonderful team in Afghanistan. We have 4 Afghans working on this project in Afghanistan. They're based in Afghanistan. So they were very quick as well. So we were very quick in developing the material, putting it online, recording the lectures, videos, how do we go about it? And then we started taking advantage of the technology. Actually, we had like WhatsApp, communicating with the participants. We used Zoom, Google Meet, everything that was at our disposal. We used all of them. And initially, I think we just wanted to try with a small number of people. So the first group we had was very small. We had only 10 people. And that's how we started. And the group kept growing after that. And
that initial group was teachers?
Yeah, all teachers. I think after we had like 2 youth groups. We trained 2 groups of young people also online, but everyone was the rest were all teachers.
I'm sure there have been quite a few technical challenges in reaching all areas of the country, especially rural areas.
Yes. Initially, we were quite excited because the prospect of really expanding our program in places that we were unable to go for the last few years because of the security situation in Afghanistan. Extremely excited. So we finished our first training. All of them came from Kabul. So we had the second batch of training. And that's when we realized that, yeah, we were excited for ourselves, but not really for the teachers that we were working with, because during one of the training, the name was actually the name of a man, and then the voice was a female voice. And then we happened to ask, like, how come? And then we found out that she had borrowed the device from a family member. So that's when we started asking the teachers, and then we did realize that there were a lot of challenges for the teachers, not for us, but for the teachers who didn't have access to technology, basically, and also the internet. And we were paying for internet the whole of last year for all the teachers who attended the training. But then some of the teachers, even if we paid them, they had to actually leave they have to go from their village to another town just to get the connection, not even to buy, but just to have Wi-Fi connection. So
Wow.
those are challenges. And then for us, I think for me and my team, this is a huge concern because we are moving so fast with the online training. Everyone is excited. Oh, look, we can do this online. We are converting everything online. But what about all these people who don't have access to technology-based? And also, it's not only true of Afghanistan. In many places, I would say, where I'm not sure I can say third world country, because there are financially challenged people in all countries. And I think as we move forward, with whatever we are doing, I think that's something that, we all should remember, keep in our mind, and then make sure that our program, when we are doing these programs online, we are actually not depriving people by, not taking them in because they don't have access to to technology. And then now for me and my team in Afghanistan, the challenge is really trying to figure out if we are going to do most of the things online, how do we reach out to all these teachers who don't have access to internet to technology. And then the other thing is also the age comes into play, right? We have older teachers, who are not really technologically savvy, and that becomes a challenge for them as well. Like, when we are having a training, them being unable to mute, or unmute themselves, and sometimes even when they switch on and off their videos. So these are some of the things that I feel that we should keep in mind as we move forward.
Do you think one potential solution would be to adopt a train the trainer model where you could train local trainers who would then in turn travel to some of these more remote villages where they might not have access to technology and internet, and they could do in-person trainings? And then that way the program wouldn't be as reliant on technology.
Yes, that is a way to go forward. But then again, Sharif, what I say, especially in Afghanistan, if I'm not going to travel to that place as a trainer, or if one of my team members are unable to travel to that place because of security situation, I don't think we should send other people and put their life in jeopardy. Because right now we are not only talking about, COVID, we are also talking about security concerns in Afghanistan. There are places, even on the roads, it's not safe. So if me or one of my team members in Afghanistan, if we are unable to travel to that particular place, I think it's not fair to send other teachers, because for us, I think sometimes we have that tendency to forget who we are doing this for.
Right.
It's for the students and teachers of Afghanistan, and their safety is a huge concern for us. And then even in organization, that's a huge thing that we constantly think about how to make it safer for people that we are working for, I should say.
So, what is the nature of the drug use problem in Afghanistan? How would you characterize it? What is the major drug of choice there?
Opium. Afghanistan is the biggest producer of illicit opium, so it's everywhere, and I think there are differing reports. You look at one report, you see something, you look at the other report, you see another thing. But then I think it's safe to say that, about 1 million Afghan men between the ages of 15 to 64, I think they have dependency problem on drugs. We're not talking about just drug use. And then we also have to think about how many of them have access to the treatment services in the country. And also, I think, one of the things that I found fascinating when I started working in Afghanistan on this project is that how they use opium to babysit children.
I've heard about that.
Yeah, babysitting. I mean, it's usually like parents working in the opium fields, and then they don't have anyone to look after their children, and then they just feed opium to their children. And I think that I think was a huge issue back then. I'm not sure about now, like how rampant it is, because there are so many organizations working with people, in Afghanistan, even in terms of finding alternative livelihood or alternative crops to cultivate. But it is a problem, I would say, especially for young children, because they have exposure, right? Their parents work in the field, they come back, and then the parents have their clothes from their hands. It's the kids are exposed to opium.
What do you think the future holds for the Colombo plan's work in Afghanistan, and more importantly for the people of Afghanistan moving forward, now that it's looking increasingly likely that the Taliban will be playing a greater role in the governance of the country?
For me, my concern is really the school children, the teachers we work with, and also the young people that we work with. I've been going to Afghanistan since 2010, and then I have seen this gradual shift. Just when I look at young people in Afghanistan, I feel like they have become um, more open, if that's the word that I can use, because you see that they're open to having dialogues even among the young people that we work with, and then that makes me quite hopeful that these young people will grow up to be good leaders, well educated, open-minded leaders. But then when we put in the aspect of Taliban, of course that becomes that changes the whole game. We know what happened in the past. We know how everything works. So I'm not sure I can comment a lot on that, but that's all I would say. But I'm quite hopeful for Afghanistan and for the Afghans, because I worked with the younger generation. I see what they are capable of. I see their enthusiasm. I see how motivated they are, and I think the only thing that we can do for them is to provide them with opportunities to improve themselves and improve the country as well.
Thank you so much, Dichen, for sharing your time and your experience with us in Afghanistan. I wish you the best in all your future endeavors, and I look forward to catching up soon to see how the project has evolved.
Thank you so much, Sharif. It was lovely talking to you, and then I'm sure you have to get back to work as well. So
Yes, indeed, and thanks again. That was Dichen Choden, Drug Advisory Program Officer with the Colombo Plan, discussing her experiences implementing the Universal Prevention Curriculum in Afghanistan.